Hello, we're talking today about how you can research a university really quickly on results day. And I'm joined by Ellie from Aberystwyth University. So Ellie, really warm welcome. First question first, what are the key things that every student should check before accepting their clearing place?
Hi John. I think one of the most important things, what I like to do is split it into 3 L's. So these 3 L's are location, learning and living. So the key things I think to think about for students are the location, first of all. So the proximity to home. So how far away does the student want to be from home? Are they, looking at universities further away? They're looking at universities closer together. What is it that they want from that experience? So if you're looking at a clearing place and the university is miles away from where you want to be, maybe that is going to go lower on the list, for example. Also having a think about the learning side of things. Obviously, one of the most important parts of university is the course and the learning. So thinking about what modules are available on the course. Are there placement years, for example? Maybe additional support too. I think those sorts of things are really important to consider for students thinking about those clearing places too. And then the living, which I think ties in quite well with location as well, because you want to be knowing that you like the area that you're living in, but also thinking about things like sports societies. Do the universities that are offering clearing places have the sports and societies that you're actually interested in? But also the accommodation, so your home away from home, so where you're actually going to be living for the time that you're at university. So I would say those three things are the main things that students should be really thinking about when they are talking to universities on clearing phone calls. So location, learning and living, definitely.
Fantastic. I am going to start using the 3 L's now.
I know you guys like your alliteration, so I was like, I need to come up with
Brilliant.
with an alliteration.
I love it. 3 hours. I am going to remember that every single time. And location on that, Ellie, is so important as well, because the location, in my experience with students, they don't sometimes think about it enough. And there's loads of evidence to suggest that if you live somewhere for 3 years at university, there's a good chance 5 years after you finish, you'll still be there. If you like the coast, Aberystwyth today, for example, look at a coastal university. If you like the city, look at city-based university. It sounds obvious, but not all students do it.
Absolutely.
So let's move on to clearing phone calls. And there's a lot of students that don't like phoning people, but at the same time, with clearing, a lot of the roads do lead to a phone call in the first instance. So in terms of that phone call, what questions can a student ask that helps them decide if a university might well be the best one for them?
So I think the best questions really to ask, they've got to be things that are important to you. So you've got to have a think about your priorities first of all. And that might be that you've had time to write a bit of a list, which I do recommend. So writing down a few questions beforehand so that you're not just thinking of them on the spot, which can be really daunting, especially when you're on a phone call, which maybe you're not comfortable with phone calls, you find them quite difficult. So making sure you've got that list prepared beforehand will be really helpful. My main questions I would ask about, again, maybe going back to those 3 L's of location, learning and living, thinking about the student life, the support. So asking the person on the end of the phone, what is the student life like? It might be likely that you're speaking to a student ambassador. So universities will use both admissions officers, recruitment officers, but also student ambassadors on their clearing phone line. So if you do end up speaking with a student, they're the best person to ask about student life, but also about support as well. So what support is there outside and inside of the learning environment? I think those are really important questions to ask, especially if you've got maybe additional support needs. But also more importantly, I think, is how the course is actually taught. So maybe you've got particular aversion to written exams, or you want to make sure that you're doing coursework-based activity, or there's practical elements within the course. So I studied film production at university and I wanted to make sure it was mostly practical. So maybe you want to ask those questions of how is the course taught? How will I be assessed? How often are examinations and what sort of format do they actually take? Will I be doing field trips, for example, depending on your course that you're looking at? But also thinking about placement years. So maybe you're really interested in a study abroad year, or you're interested in going and doing a placement year in industry, depending on what the course offers. So that might be another thing you can ask, just to go, look, I'm interested in this. Does this university offer this course? From there, that can help you then narrow down. You've got maybe only a short amount of time to try and get through your clearing calls. So once you've got a few answers, you can then move on to the next one. But then also thinking about the living side of things, the accommodation. So asking what the accommodation is like. Again, another great question to talk to the student ambassador about. Ask them. It's likely that they are living in accommodation or have already lived in accommodation previously, so they can give you a real honest view of what it's like in that university's accommodation, because you want to make sure at the end of the day that you're going to be happy living somewhere. That's going to be your home base, the room that you come back to at the end of maybe a stressful day. So you want to make sure that you're happy living there.
Fab. Yeah, I'm so glad you said about content of the course, because that's one thing that you hear students all the time, that they don't really research sometimes, not everyone, but sometimes they don't research how many hours they're going to be in. And I sometimes go into schools and work with schools still. And I always say that my degree, I was in like 8 to 10 hours a week in terms of lectures and stuff. And my now wife, she she did fashion design. And then I then say, which is why I'm so fashionable, never gets a laugh. But she was in like all day, every day. And that will, suit some students. Some students want, lots of their own independent study and time.
But some students find that a nightmare. And I think also I say to students a lot, have a think about, let's say you're wanting to go and study history. A history course at one university is going to look very different to another course of the same name. They're all got very similar names. It might be that there's a medieval history module within that course that another university doesn't do. Sometimes it just comes down to actually looking more in depth into the course rather than just going, okay, which universities can I study history at? Okay, there's the top 3 in the UK. And then, from there, it's maybe not going to be as nuanced as you could have if you've actually done the research and gone, okay, well, what's involved in this history course? Do I like that actual university in the area? Okay, maybe I don't go for that one, maybe I go for a different one instead.
Brilliant. Yeah, yes. I was just nodding the whole time then. And so in terms of like the research a student will do, is there resources, websites that you would recommend in terms of helping students to compare stuff confidently, but when it comes to clearing, probably more importantly, quickly?
Yeah, absolutely. It is really important to make sure you've got the right resources to compare universities and compare courses. We are so lucky in this day and age that we are so saturated for resources, but then that can also feel quite overwhelming when you've got lots of different websites, lots of different resources. Your search engines are your friends for finding, the best comparison websites. I know a few off the top of my head. First off, UCAS is going to be great for helping you with comparing universities. I'd say to all students, that is your first port of call at any stage in the process, whether it is, your initial research stage or in your year 12, all the way up until clearing, because it might be that you haven't fully explored the website yet. But also things like What Uni, Uni Compare, and also the Complete University Guide are great websites that have similar kind of comparison tools and search tools on there. So depending on what is most helpful for you in order of searching. Oh, I also wanted to shout out the UniTasterDays website as well, because I was having a look on it a few days ago. There's lots of more specific information on there. So depending on the level of information that you want, whether it is just sort of, basic searching and comparing of universities on things like maybe price, rankings, obviously all of those university websites that I've mentioned so far are great. From those websites, you can then go on to the specific university websites. I'd say, have these comparison websites as your kind of first port of call, and then you need to go on to the university websites because they all have their own dedicated clearing websites or a kind of clearing section within their course page. So I know, for example, at Aberystwyth, we have all of our clearing courses labelled on the own course page that will say this course is available through clearing. I know lots of other universities do the same. So that can then give you a bit more information. And also, obviously, there's a direct phone number there. So you can either obviously do like a live chat sort of thing with some universities or just phone up and ask for some more information. I can guarantee all the people who are going to be answering the phone are going to be wanting to answer all of those questions for you and make it as easy as possible.
Fab. Yeah, thank you, Ellie. And thanks also for the UniTasterDays shout out. We're actually working on lots of clearing resources.
Yeah, there's loads of stuff on there it's brilliant. It's really good stuff.
It's a big deal for unis. Clearing is such a big deal for the sector and universities. So everyone is going to be producing some really cool stuff. The thing that you as a student watching this needs to do is go out there and find it. And it's easier than ever with AI and everything else to get it, but you still kind of need to. No one's going to put it to your face. You need to go out there and find it. Let me Ellie, just ask you one last question, if that's okay. Picture ourselves on results day, and students might have done better or worse than they expected, and that therefore leads to clearing. How can a student generally find the best fit university and make decisions on what is the best fit for them, rather than just perhaps going with the first university that offers them a place?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I would say the most important thing really is to evaluate your choices just based on how well the course structure suits you and how well it matches that learning style that we talked about a little bit earlier on. But also think about the campus. So, what is the environment like? So do you actually want to be in a big city, or do you want to be by a beach? You want to be in a tiny campus? All of those sorts of things really tie together and will help you narrow down those decisions rather than just sort of going for the first place that offers you over the phone. I think it can be really daunting on results day to have a whole list of universities to call and not just want to go for that instinct of, okay, I just need a place at university, I'm going to go for the first one that says yes. If you can, try not to rush into any decisions. You do have a lot longer than you think when it comes to actually accepting those clearing places. Obviously, you want to try and get through things quickly so that you have the time to give yourself time to make those decisions. You want to get yourself all the information and then take your time making that decision. But I want to go back as well to that those 3 L's that I mentioned earlier on, looking at location, learning, and the living. I think if all of those 3 bases are covered and you like the place, I think what it really boils down to is if you can actually imagine yourself living there. I remember when I was looking at universities during my time at sixth form, and I ended up going to a few open days, and the university that I ended up going to, I had this feeling of, I can see myself being here. And my mum came with me and she was like, I can imagine you living here, I can imagine you learning here. And at the end of the day, that really came down to, you know, my decision process and what it came down to at the end. And you might not have that same opportunity to actually go and visit a university. I would recommend, if you can, go to a clearing visit day after accepting a place on the phone. That will really help. I think at the end of the day, having student life, the living, and actually just genuinely liking the place and knowing that the course is going to suit you and you're actually going to want to continue on the course and enjoy it, because it's going to be your home and it's going to be what you're doing for the next few years. So you want to make sure it's somewhere that is right for you. It might sound a bit kind of maybe hippie, but I think sometimes you do just get a feeling about a place and know that the vibe is right. So I definitely would say that would be my biggest advice on that.
Ellie. And if students are doing research and looking at an A to Z approach to universities, Aberystwyth are going to come out pretty well. You're going to be busy on the clearing phone lines come results day. The one thing that I always come back to is I was chatting to one student once that went, I think it was a clearing open day. It was an open day. And they said they didn't get a feel for the university whatsoever. I can't remember the university, but they didn't get a feel. And I said, oh, fantastic. And they went, well, why fantastic? It's as much about ruling it in as it is ruling it out. And actually they could have applied to go to that, you know, had the clearing phone call, thought that's a university for them, and started a 3-year course and been there for 3 years. So if they're going to go and spend 5 minutes, and, you know, as you said about your own example, Ellie, and your mum, like if you get a feel for a place, great. But actually, if you don't get a feel for a place, also great, because at least then you can rule it out and then move on to something else and not end up making decisions staying there for 3 years and perhaps regretting that afterwards. If people that are watching this are interested in finding out more about Aberystwyth and clearing plans, is the homepage the best place to head to for now?
Yeah, I would absolutely say so. We've got lots of information on our homepage, and then, like I mentioned earlier, on the individual course pages, so you can find all of the courses that are available through clearing for Aberystwyth. We have clearing taster days on the 14th and 15th of August as well, so if you do want to come along and visit us, hopefully the sun will be shining, you can have a lovely day out by the sea.
Ellie, thank you. That was Ellie joining us from Aberystwyth University.